Hi, my name is Vedran and I'm the CEO and founder of Treblle. Before running Treblle, I actually used to have a software development company in Croatia. So that I started as soon as we finished college. So around 2011 is when I kind of finished. Um, I briefly worked for like a large media company here in Zagreb. And then that turned out to be a very wild ride. I decided, hey, either I can go work for the man or I could do something on my own. And we ended up opening up the first company in 2011 and ran that for the 2021 when we opened Treblle. The first company, I just wanted to do something for myself. The second company, Treblle, is purely based out of need. So we actually started Treblle to help ourselves while we were developing APIs for other people in the software development company. I think when I think about trends or advantages of Croatia, immediately I think everybody's going to say engineering, right? So there is a lot of, I would say, talented engineers here who have worked for many years for various companies all around the world. And there is kind of that knowledge here and willingness. And still, to a degree, when you compare the prices to somewhere like London, SF, or New York, it's relatively cheaper, even though not definitely as cheap as it used to be, but relatively more affordable. And the talent is here, right? Some of it. Maybe not on large scale projects and like large volume projects, but I think that's like the number one thing that I can think of. And just like I've been to both SF, New York, London, when you think about Zagreb, like Zagreb is a big city, but compared to all of those, it's like very tiny. So it has a very tight-knit community. You can move around the city. It's much safer to live with, work with. There's a much better balance. Like I remember every time we wanted to go for a meeting in San Francisco, we were staying in Palo Alto, it's like an hour and a half drive by car, right? Or roughly the same, maybe a little shorter by train. But basically, I can get from one side of Zagreb to the other side of Zagreb in like 15 minutes. So it's very easy to live with and still affordable, in my opinion. I think the community, support-wise, is still evolving. I think a couple of years ago, I don't think you could have gotten a lot of support, but I think now the kind of awareness is much higher, and the situation is much better. You do have some local VCs that have done deals that are willing to help when it comes to startups and kind of tech. And when it comes to exclusively engineering and tech help, I think that ecosystem has been around for quite a few years. Like we hosted the other week a PHP meetup. We're hosting a Ruby meetup today in our office. So those things have been happening and will continue to happen regardless of like the startup life. And I think that's a good thing. But if you combine those, I think the startup ecosystem needs to grow a bit more. We need more companies, which will result in more VCs, which will result in everything from more lawyers to accountants who understand SaaS, etc., etc. So, give you an example. Right now, like when I think about accounting in Croatia, like nobody has experience in running like a global SaaS company when it comes to accounting, etc., etc. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a success story, in my opinion. Like the way I see it is, even if we fail as a company tomorrow, I think I've learned more in these 3 years running Treblle than I have in the last 15. So if I was starting another company, I would just kind of know a lot of the things that took me like 2 years to learn, or a year. So I think more people should try. The more success stories, obviously, the better for the entire ecosystem, because, you know, people in Croatia get motivated by success. You can see our kind of soccer team and like even the Eurosong song, like a lot of people get carried away with that and like that feeling. And that's, Croatians are very passionate about huge wins for their country. So I think that would be beneficial. But I just, people should try, and that's it. I think there's still a lot of stigma around failing here, and like a lot of people are afraid, hey, am I gonna fuck somebody? Can I curse here? No. Am I gonna fuck somebody up? Am I gonna lose the investors' money? Is my friend gonna laugh at me or whatever? So people are still like afraid of that feeling, if you will. Like the more you talk about it, the more you humanize some of the success stories that we have, the better. I think some of the players try to continuously tell a story of how they almost ran out of money or almost ran the company to the ground or made a huge mistake, but despite of that succeeded. But the media rarely wants to hear that. Like if I go try to do like a media appearance on the Croatian TV, first of all, nobody's going to care about APIs because they don't know what APIs are. Secondly, if I say, hey, I want to talk about all the things I failed, everybody's going to be like, are you crazy? Who's going to watch that? Everybody wants huge stories, huge successes. So I think a part of it is media, not necessarily you guys, but the mainstream media, in my opinion, where a lot of attention goes and a lot of people see those things. So I think normalizing the fact that you might not succeed, and I think that's a part of the risk that you take when you're founding a startup is, if you do succeed, that's like amazing. But if you fail, you still succeeded, in my opinion. So I think it's about media, it's about education. I think the education system kind of tries to push people to have straight A's. Like, I know my parents did the same. I know like a lot of cousins and nephews I have, largely the same. Everybody wants to get A's, which is fine. But it's a bit obsessive, if you will. This might be very subjective to me because my background is in engineering. So probably like to me, the biggest things around founding a startup were all the non-engineering things, which is basically everything else from running a business to doing sales, to doing marketing, to doing accounting, etc. But I think to tie that into what we talked about earlier, I feel like there's a bigger engineering presence here than, for example, there is in terms of salespeople who have sold to enterprises worldwide, or go-to-market people, or growth people who have experience and have scaled companies from 0 to 1. I think that fundamental problem of going from 0 to 1 is where I saw the most amount of problem when we hire, when we talk about to people, when we try to get advice, when we try to talk to other companies for experience. Either there are already successful companies who might be growing at a certain slower rate or have bootstrapped for a very long time. There's a small amount of people who have gone from 0 to 1 in like 2-3 years. Everybody else is just much slower. So I think we need more of those 0 to 1 people generally across every sector, including engineering. Like I think most people in Croatia are not aware and ready on the amount of work they need to put in, or the amount of frustration that you get going from 0 to 1. Like we've had amazing people who've done amazing things in other roles where everything was set up. When they come to a 0 to 1 role, it's radically different. So I think that is something that we've had the most amount of I would say hassle with. There's like many other things, everything from like doing business in Croatia and how all of that works and functions. But luckily, we've from the get-go, we've had a UK company, now we have a US company, so that makes it a lot easier. And one thing that I will say that we are lucky because we have the US company, you just get to use their tech, right? So banking, you don't have to deal with the local banks. You get to use all the amazing things that the US ecosystem offers, all the luxury that you get of being able to move fast, being able to use APIs for accounting rather than somebody scanning like invoices and then retyping them or something like that. So I think that's a pretty good benefit that allows you to move faster. I think until like I said, when we were founding Treblle, I only heard about Vedran from SC and those guys. There were not a lot of VCs. There was not a lot of interest in Croatia. Now that's changed, which is amazing. But I don't expect the government to do anything. Like that expectation, in my opinion, would be rather wrong, because that's what I think most of the Croatian people are used to. Like, whenever there's a hard problem to solve, everybody's like, oh, the government should help us solve the problem. I don't think the government should help you solve anything. They should at least get out of the way and just like kind of let you do what you do, and then somebody will figure it out and other people will follow, right? So I think the government can do something, but it's not up to the government to kind of solve some of these problems. It depends. My answer would be, I know there's activity in Osijek, I know there's activity in Split. Those are the two most often ones that I hear when we talk about real like startups. Obviously there's like a lot of maybe gaming stuff going around Kutina and stuff like that, but I would say when I think about pure startups, people who are actually starting a startup and kind of maybe trying to raise round, I would say Osijek and Split besides Zagreb is the place where I've heard from first hand or second hand that people are trying to do things. I think if you one thing about Croatia, which isn't that different from some of the other countries, is it's very centralized. So if you want to do business, if you want to do real business, if you want to be where all the talent is, if you want to be where everything is happening, I think that's Zagreb. And that's just, I'm from Slavonia, right? So I'm not from Zagreb. I love Slavonia. I grew up, I go there regularly. That's an amazing part of the country, but it's not where where you start and run a fast-growing startup in such a slow-paced, moving environment that is incredible. Yeah, I mean, we started Treblle in 2021 to solve our problem. Like, every time we would work on an API, we would run into the same set of problems, just a different set of faces, if you will. And we started solving that, and that snowballed into us solving problems for companies all around the world, primarily from the US. So when I think about our growth so far, we've got around 100,000 developers. We have around 12,000 different APIs that use Treblle. We process roughly around 1.5 billion requests per month across those 12,000 APIs. So we do have internal goals, obviously, for the end of the year and going forward. But we're going to more aggressively expand and move to the US as a company, including myself, some of the team, and especially hiring in the US. So that's our primary kind of goal, is to migrate from this kind of, I would say, between state where we're like a company from Croatia where half of the team is here, half of the team is in the US. I think we will have to transition more to the United States as we work with these Fortune 500 companies to help them scale their API needs. It's just something that, again, coming back to a smaller country, if you're from a smaller city, you move to Zagreb. If you're in Zagreb and you want to do stuff globally, then you go to New York or San Francisco. It's just something you have to do. For us, I think the North Star is we want to get to 1 million users by, within the next couple of months, and we want to get to at least, 5 billion requests per month. Of course, obviously, we're focused on heavily on sales and getting more and more customers on board, which we do every day. Everything from like banks to insurance companies to startups or technology companies in the US, which again is just going to continue to be our focus. For now, the goal is getting to a next round, obviously, and kind of seeing that round end successfully, and then moving from there. Everything that I thought about expanding from the Croatia to US, when you think about just if you imagine a number, any number that you think this might cost, just like 5x that, because that's my number one tip. Everything that we've tried to do ended up being more expensive, radically more expensive than what I imagined and actually put down on a piece of paper and gave to my investors on the last round. There are many different aspects on why that is. Everything from I was wrong with my assumptions, the market has changed, it's more expensive, it's more complicated, everything. But I think fundamentally it's about mentality. It's very hard sometimes to grasp that if you want somebody really good at sales who has sold to enterprise companies, that person costs anywhere from $200,000 to like $500,000, right, a year. That's a huge amount of money. If you think about the average round size in this area, it's maybe like $1 million, $1.5 million at best, like seed round. That's like a third of an average round just on one guy. And you have to kind of, and you don't know if it's going to succeed. Like, and then you have to take bigger risks, and you have to get better at understanding people and understanding which people are good and bad. So that's number one around that whole segment. And this is not just sales. Like, if you want the guy that was the top engineer in any American company from SF, he's roughly going to cost maybe 180 to 220K a year. So things are radically more expensive. There is a huge mentality shift that you as a founder, as a team, as a company need to do. And if you don't do it, it's just going to become much more difficult for you. And I think third, and we come back to and I repeated this for the third time now, if you want to do business in the United States, you need to go to the United States, right? So I can't be making deals with Fortune 500 companies from my, sofa in Zagreb. People want to see you face to face. People want that assurance. They want to hear from you. It's not just a call anymore, et cetera, et cetera. So you need to be present there. You need the same way you're talking to people from the Croatian ecosystem in Zagreb, Croatia.